Highlights from SpaceX's scrubbed Starship rocket launch attempt. The nearly 400-foot Moon and Mars rocket remains on the launch pad in South Texas as engineers may prepare for a test flight part of the way around the Earth another day. SpaceX will wait a few days for the next launch attempt. SpaceX will have to try again another day to launch Starship. The countdown to liftoff of the most powerful rocket ever built was called off on Monday morning at a launch site in South Texas near Brownsville because of a problem with a valve in the booster's pressurization system that appeared to be frozen. The company may try again in a few days according to its founder, Elon Musk. On its webcast, SpaceX said it would need a minimum of 48 hours to try to launch Starship again because it will need more propellants for the rocket. SpaceX has scrubbed launch today because of the problem with the pressurization system in the booster. It will continue with the countdown as a wet dress rehearsal, doing almost everything except igniting the engines. Starship will transform SpaceX and the entire business of spaceflight if it works. Image. Starship could lead to a new upheaval in the economics of sending things to space because, for the first time, the entire rocket would be reusable. Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX, has made the analogy that air travel would be unaffordable if the airplane were thrown away after one flight. If a rocket were entirely reusable, the cost of each launch would mainly be the fuel, and Mr. Musk said a cost of a Starship launch could fall to under $10 million, or under $100 per kilogram for a payload weighing 100 metric tons. On its webcast, SpaceX said the Coast Guard was chasing one boat out of the keep-out zone that needs to cleared before launch. What happened during Starship's test flights? SpaceX's next-generation Starship rocket not only is huge but also designed to be fully reusable. That means when it returns to Earth, it has to survive re-entry but land softly, in one piece. Unlike NASA's retired space shuttles, Starship will land vertically. Look back at the series of test launches, some more successful than others, that have prepared SpaceX for its latest, most ambitious flight. Propellants are now being added to the upper portion of Starship, which will travel around the Earth in the event of a successful launch. Loading of propellants, the liquid methane and oxygen that will fuel the rocket, has begun. How to watch SpaceX's Starship test site with the pros. For such a remote location, the site in Texas where SpaceX has been testing its Starship rocket is surprisingly well monitored. SpaceX has long shared its rocket launches with the public via the internet, but at the Boca Chica Village rocket base, the company is joined by a dedicated core of independent digital media businesses. For years, these companies have been using remote cameras and other tools to monitor the development of Starship prototypes and sharing what they see to sizable audiences using internet streaming. Is one company that has used remote cameras to avidly keep tabs on the construction and testing at SpaceX's Starbase site. Unaffiliated with NASA, the company has been operating online for 18 years and started its YouTube channel in 2019. There, its Starbase Live channel is always streaming, with periodic commentary and discussion provided by NASA spaceflight contributors. You can see its view of Monday's test flight in the video player below. SpaceX is now aiming to launch at 9:20 a.m. Eastern Time. We are awaiting the start of loading of methane and liquid oxygen propellants into Starship. We'll know for sure when frost begins forming on the exterior from the chill of liquid oxygen in the tanks. What could happen during Starship's test flight? For the test flight on Monday, Starship will fly part of the way around the Earth, starting from SpaceX's launch site in Boca Chica Village, Texas, and splashing down in waters off Hawaii. To make that full trip, a lot of things need to go right and plenty can go wrong. On its website, SpaceX promised excitement guaranteed at the moment of launch. What is Starship? For Elon Musk, Starship is really a Mars ship. He envisions a fleet of the spacecraft carrying settlers to the Red Planet in the coming years. And for that eventual purpose, Starship, under development by Mr. Musk's SpaceX rocket company, has to be big. Stacked on top of what SpaceX calls a super heavy booster, the Starship rocket system will be, by pretty much every measure, the biggest and most powerful ever. How to watch Monday's launch attempt. Elon Musk's silver-hued vision for sending humans to the moon and Mars is standing next to a 480-foot launch tower in the southern corner of Texas. It's a new SpaceX rocket called Starship that is more powerful than any vehicle that has traveled to space. As early as Monday morning, SpaceX will try to launch the Starship prototype to space for the first time. SpaceX scrubbed Starship. We'll have to wait a bit longer to see a fully stacked Starship fly. SpaceX had planned to launch a fully stacked Starship vehicle for the first time ever today, April 17, sending the gigantic spacecraft skyward from its Starbase facility here on South Texas Gulf Coast. That didn't happen, however. With just under 9 minutes to go in the countdown, SpaceX announced an issue with the pressurization system on Starship's first stage. Mission controllers then decided to transition today's flight test to a wet dress rehearsal, allowing them to work through the vehicle's pre-flight procedures and learn more about the rocket and its systems. The point of the countdown is to allow the teams to progress that T0 time in a coordinated fashion and really to unveil any issues prior to the ignition sequence. So the countdown did its job today, said SpaceX's Kate Tice during today's launch coverage. SpaceX will now wait a minimum of 48 hours before attempting another launch. A new launch time has yet to be announced. Prior to the announcement that today's attempt would be scrubbed, SpaceX founder and CEO Elon Musk stated via Twitter opens in new tab during the countdown that a pressurant valve appears to be frozen, so unless it starts operating soon, no launch today. A pressurant valve appears to be frozen, so unless it starts operating soon, no launch today, April 17, 2023. SpaceX is developing Starship to take people and cargo to the moon and Mars and to take over pretty much all of the company's spaceflight portfolio down the road. The deep space transportation system consists of a huge first stage booster called Super Heavy and an upper stage spacecraft known as Starship. When stacked, the vehicle stands 394 feet, 120 meters, tall, higher than any other rocket ever built. Starship will also be the most powerful rocket in history when it takes flight. Its 33 first-stage Raptor engines will generate 16.5 million pounds of thrust at liftoff, nearly twice as much as the current record holder, NASA's Space Launch System Meg rocket. Both of Starship's stages are powered by SpaceX's next general Raptor. The upper stage sports 6 of the engines, and both are designed to be fully and rapidly reusable. That's the key breakthrough that SpaceX founder and CEO Elon Musk thinks is needed to make the settlement of Mars economically feasible. And Starship shows other hallmarks of a Mars-focused design. For example, its Raptor engines burn liquid oxygen and liquid methane, both of which can be produced on the Red Planet. Starship won't be going nearly that far on its first space launch, of course. The plan is to bring Super Heavy down in the Gulf of Mexico about 8 minutes after launch and send Starship partway around Earth with a splashdown in the Pacific Ocean near Hawaii. Mike Wall is the author of Out There Opens in New Tab, Grand Central Publishing, 2018. Illustrated by Carl Tate, a book about the search for alien life. Follow him on Twitter, Wall opens in new tab. Follow us on Twitter, space.com opens in new tab, or Facebook opens in new tab. Colorado Springs, SpaceX called off the first attempt to launch its integrated Starship vehicle from Texas April 17 because of a valve problem. SpaceX announced it was scrubbing the launch of its Starship vehicle and Super Heavy booster from its Starbase test site at Boca Chica, Texas, less than 10 minutes before the scheduled 9:20 a.m. Eastern liftoff, after reporting a pressurization issue with the booster. A pressurant valve appears to be frozen, so unless it starts operating soon, no launch today. Elon Musk, chief executive of SpaceX, tweeted moments before SpaceX announced the scrub. The company had reported no other major issues with the vehicle, and weather was acceptable. The company continued with the countdown until the T40-second mark, finishing propellant loading and using the launch attempt as a wet dress rehearsal. Commentators on the SpaceX webcast said it would be a minimum of 48 hours before they could make another launch attempt. Learned a lot today, now offloading propellant, retrying in a few days, Musk tweeted after the scrub. The launch would be the first flight of the integrated Starship Super Heavy vehicle after several low-altitude test flights of Starship prototypes and static fire tests of Super Heavy.